This year, we're going to start our journey in Brisbane with a community that in the closing decades of the 20th century challenged and changed Australia in ways that we're only just beginning to understand. For more than 40 years, Brisbane has been home to one of the largest Vietnamese communities in the country. And nowhere is it better represented than in the southwest suburb of Inala. It's estimated almost a quarter of Inala's residents have Vietnamese ancestry. And the local marketplace is bustling with its culture and language. It's the kind of place where it helps to have a guide, someone who can talk the talk and, well, walk the walk.
Michael!
Teresa Q1 Do is a local legend in Inala, the kind of person who knows anyone and everyone.
This is my
Bustling.
turf.
Oh.
This is my turf, all right? I'm going to show you around. Are you thirsty?
Yes, I'm parched. Every day is market day here.
This is where we get to use our own lingo. So this is where they get to speak and hang out and, talk about the old days.
Thank you so much. And then, of course, there's the food. The home of Brisbane's cheapest veggies.
$3.99 a kilo. What a bargain. Let's get two.
And the best banh mi in the city.
You stay there, I'll go around.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 pieces. How about that, eh? I'm going to charge you double the price. It's called mate's rate.
Mate's rate, yes.
That's right. Just for you, Michael.
Very kind of you. Most days, you'll also find these guys.
All right, Michael, this is a good friend of mine. His name is Mia.
Hey, nice to meet you.
And this is An Ho.
Tiger. My name is Ho.
Oh.
In Vietnamese means tiger.
Tiger.
So,
All right.
teach us how to play chess today.
Chinese chess.
Chinese chess, but in Vietnamese, what do you call it?
Cờ tướng.
Cờ tướng.
Right. You've got to learn how to move.
Got to capture that.
You had to capture the kick.
Okay.
Make the hit.
Oh, it's important. It's all the slam down. Despite his enthusiasm, it turns out Tiger might not be the best teacher.
Sorry. I'm on the wrong way.
Once you make a move, I'm sorry, my friend.
Oh, no! No, what have we done?
No, I'm
It's really hurt when you lose, hey?
It's not hurt, but the way you talk. Okay.
Bye-bye. We game. Bye.
Maybe we should just move on to lunch.
How is it?
This is the best part of me. So when did you come to Australia?
I came to Australia in 1982.
How old were you in 1982?
7.
You were 7 years old.
Yeah.
You look like you weren't even born in 1982.
Thanks, Michael. The Monday is doing a great job. Have another bite.
I'll be honest. What do you remember from when you first arrived in Australia?
The carpet.
What do you mean the carpet?
At the international airport. The carpet was so bright, blue, yellow, whatever like that. It was so beautiful. And I remember I said to my mum, I said, I can really actually live here because it's so beautiful
because of
and
the
so
beautiful
clean.
carpet.
Yeah.
What do you remember about Inala when you first arrived? Was it like this?
Not really. It's changed a lot. Our community has grown so much. But today you look around, most of the shops here are owned by Vietnamese. So we've got second, third generation as well. So the food is better as well, as you can see.
To understand why so many Vietnamese Australians call Brisbane home, we need to go back. When the Vietnam War ended in 1975, it kicked off a fresh humanitarian crisis. In the 20 years after the war, nearly 3 million people fled the country. It was an exodus that coined the term boat people.
Vietnam.
It's estimated close to 500,000 people died at sea trying to escape to neighbouring countries.
They are the people who are desperate. They lost everything. They left everything behind, just ran away. If the lamppost could work, it will flee the country as well.
Dr. Quang Bui is the president of the local Vietnamese Association and a pioneer of the community here in Brisbane.
I arrived in Australia on the 17th of May, 75. I mean 17 days after we lost South Vietnam. The next morning we have breakfast there. And I never seen conflict before. It's so beautiful, so golden yellow, and I really love it. And I still have it now. After now, still have it. That's my first impression about Australia.
It's cereal.
Cereal.
A veteran of the South Vietnamese Army, Dr. Bui became an advisor to the Fraser government at a time when refugee camps across Asia were overwhelmed with Vietnamese boat people, and Australia was under increasing pressure to help do something about it.
they can't find a job, they feel very lonely and they need help.
Australian government never had to face that sort of crisis before. I went to visit the refugee in the camps. I saw a child just been born only about a few days. The rats came up and tried to mold the tip of the finger of the child. One of the lady, she had to eat the flesh of her dead brother, otherwise she would die as well. You need to listen only once and you never forget.
The Fraser government response was a migration program that would see 60,000 Vietnamese refugees move to Australia in just 7 years. It formed the basis of what is now Australia's 6th largest migrant community. What do you think the local people thought of the Vietnamese?
At the beginning, they probably doesn't like it because we come, so many people come at once. But after that, they found that our food is okay. Our people, they are very calm. People lost everything. When they come here, they try to work hard to stand back on their feet and to help their children.
Hi, Michael. Welcome to my house.
Wow, you have a beautiful house.
Thank you. I just want to show you this very important photo of my dad. The immigration officer was telling him, don't smile, you've got to have a neutral face. And he kept smiling because he was so happy to be accepted in Australia. And then he went to the bank and all he had was 20 cents.
So that's an account open for 20 cents?
It wasn't even his 20 cents, it was a friend that lent him 20 cents.
Borrowed 20 cents to open a bank account.
To open a bank account. So this is how, we started here in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
A South Vietnamese soldier, Teresa's father escaped Vietnam in 1980. He survived boat sinkings and 2 separate pirate attacks.
Mum thought that he died, but she didn't want to tell us. And then we got to Australia, and as we walked out, I saw Dad. I get a bit emotional. Yeah, because I do miss my dad.
You hadn't seen your father in 2 years.
Mum and Dad, they just hug each other and they cried.
What was Brisbane like when you first arrived?
At school was tough. We looked different and there weren't a lot of Asian kids in the school there too. So I got bullied a lot. I didn't know how to speak English. My teacher would say like, how old are you? No. What's your name? Yes. And one time she took me to the swimming pool and she goes, can you swim? And I said, no, like this, but I went like this, and for some reason she thought I know how to swim, so she chucked me down in the deep end. Went boom, right down.
Was it hard for your parents to find work when they first came to Australia?
For my dad, it was extremely hard because he was an engineer, but because his English wasn't that great, like this. So his first job was mowing the lawn. And one of his friends was actually a surgeon, but again, because of the English, they both mow lawns together.
So you have an engineer and a surgeon mowing lawns.
Yeah, like that. That's their first job.
Did your father ever talk to you about how that made him feel?
See, Vietnamese, we're so resilient because of all the things that we've gone through. Look, we've gone through wars, we've gone through settlement, we've gone through a lot. So he always say, look, it doesn't matter how tough life is, you can always do it. You can always go for it because this is the land of opportunity. You can't really go wrong in Australia.
Coming up, a new generation fighting for their place in Australia.
I actually started martial arts because I was bullied in school. They gave me a name and they called me Chink.
With a Vietnamese community that's made a home here since the end of the Vietnam War. I'm supposed to be meeting one of that community's second generation, someone who's been described as a queen of on-screen action. Hello? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Oh, come on! welcome.
You okay?
This is Maria Tran, an international action star who grew up on the mean streets of Brisbane. Actually, it was the quite nice suburbs of Brisbane.
I remember every family gathering, you know, someone would get out a VHS tape and they'd be like, this is Inner Line of Duty, Part 7. You know, it's just about the underdogs catching the bad guys or winning the day. And that was the same plight that a lot of migrants and refugees were feeling at that time, that they're trying to fit in and they're trying to work hard and they're trying to make ends meet and they want to win the day.
Is it true that your family used to have a fish and chip shop down the road from Pauline Hanson's?
12 minutes away from hers. But we didn't know her at the time. I remember growing up and they just wanted to make the best fish and chip store. Parents came to Australia, you know, as a refugee, you know, during the 80s. And they wanted to do something that they felt that they were part of a country, a new country.
Do you have an understanding of the journey they made?
My parents wouldn't connect with me when it came to their journey. Like for my mum, she would escape by boat like something along the lines of 9 times. She was jailed 9 times. My dad was in jail for like re-education camp for 7 years. There was this expectation of our journey was hard. You know, you should be happy to be here. You should be happy that you now have this, but they're not really knowing the why.
Did you face racism growing up?
Yeah, I actually started martial arts because I was bullied in school. But the thing is, growing up, when I experienced racism, I didn't know that was a term. I didn't even know. I just thought people didn't like me. They gave me a name. They called me Chink.
Oh.
But at that time, when I remembered being given that name, I just felt, wow, it's the first time they're speaking to me. Went home and I told my dad, and my dad was pretty proud. He was like, oh, and there was a large family gathering.
Oh, he didn't know either.
He didn't know, so he went, everyone, you know, my daughter has friends. They call her Chink, and everyone was like, Chink, Chink. I didn't think of it as a label of racism. It was only later when I grew up and go,
Wait a
that's
second.
a thing.
What about your parents? Did they ever experience racism?
They did experience quite a bit of racism, but for them it's more like, oh, people don't like me, so they're calling me names. How do I find bigger swear words to say back to them? So my dad, I remembered he used to be like, how do you say this word? It's like dickhead, dickhead. Like my dad was just like really...
Sorry, it's awful that he was going through that, but it rules that an 8-year-old is teaching it. Yeah,
their father had to swear. And I think for them it's they still feel sometimes they're a foreigner in this country, so therefore there's no reason for them to say anything about it because they feel grateful for being here, but at the same time not speaking out means that it's okay. So that's sort of the dilemma when it comes to feeling like the other.
When people ask you, where are you from, what do you say?
It depends on the people, right? Sometimes I feel like, can't I just be myself? Like, can't you just connect with me just like not with my ethnicity and just as a human? So that's sort of sometimes in the back of my head.
Do you ever feel like you get typecast in roles?
All the time. I don't know how many prostitute roles I've auditioned for.
Oh boy.
That's why I love doing like a lot of the action genre stuff. That's my favorite because I'm not seen as, you know, a sidekick, you know, in the Australian narrative. I can be potentially seen as a lead. I think my generation, because we didn't grow up in Vietnam, we grew up in another country. We call ourselves Australians, but there is sometimes a sense that we're not. I want to be able to tell stories that showcase that we are also a part of this country, a part of society, and we can contribute.
Maria, it's been a pleasure to meet you and fight you and have you protect me. So thanks so much.
No worries, anytime.
Next, on Where Are You Really From? Confronting the ghosts of the past.
Pitch dark, people can't see anyone. And all I knew was I was on that bottom layer. Everybody was on top of me. I thought I was going to die.
And the fears for the future of this community.
Australians are so lucky. Australia never have to face any war here.
Getting back on the road is something we're all looking forward to. And at Toyota, we're here to help you do just that.
Get Hilux 4x4 SR5 from $53,990 drive away. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
If you need to slash living costs fast, Arise Solar is making it even easier with a new end of financial year discount and managed no interest payment plan on the biggest home solar system. With potential lifetime returns of over $50,000, this 6.6 kilowatt Tier 1 system has been reduced to a low $38.81 with no deposit, easy repayments over 21 months and prompt installation to get you saving faster. This price can only be held until end of financial year, so call 1-800-ARISE Solar today.
On now at Harvey Norman, get 20% off Microsoft Surface Pro 7, Pro X and Laptop 3. Like this Surface Pro 7 i3 128GB, now $999, saving you $250. Or this Surface Laptop 3 with the latest Intel i5 processor, now $1,359, savings $340. With 60 months interest-free available, don't miss out. Get 20% off Microsoft Surface Pro 7, Pro X and Laptop 3. On now at Harvey Norman.
If you or someone you know needs help, contact Lifeline on 13 11 14.
I'm Michael Heng, and this week I'm with Brisbane's Vietnamese community. It's impossible to understand this community without understanding the events that led to its formation. Most Vietnamese families here are from the south of the country and fled after it was taken over by the communist forces of the north.
Would you ever go back to Vietnam?
I don't want to go back, and I don't think that they will let me come in the country. Australians are so lucky. Australia never have to face any war here.
Now in his 70s, Dr. Bui still protests against the Vietnamese government and the influence of communism on Australia.
Now with communist China! Now with communist Vietnam! Now!
Do you see the influence of the Chinese Communist Party in Australia?
Oh yeah. Now they don't invade it by force anymore. They try to come here using their money talk.
I can't really imagine that happening here in Australia, but I guess you couldn't have imagined that happening in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's why I think not only protesting for myself, but I'm protesting for my community and also for Australia, because we are Australian now. I have no place to go.
It's obvious this is all still very raw for Dr. Bui. But it's not surprising when you consider the scars the Vietnam War and its aftermath have left on his community.
My family, we lost a house, we lost everything. We were classed as the children of criminal.
My Linh came to Australia when she was just 14. She grew up in Saigon with a father who was a member of the South Vietnamese Army.
I remember that the fall of Saigon, the day that we escaped our home, we took off. It was petrifying. Dad was taken away from us to what they call re-education camp. Mum, at that point in her early 30s, had to raise 5 children and was pregnant as well.
When My Linh was 12, she and her sister were smuggled out of Vietnam.
Mum just told me that someone will come and pick you up. Oh, where? Where am I going? Mum says, don't ask, just go. Kid, I was thrown into a 2 meters wide, a 10 meters long, tiny little boat. Pitch dark, people can't see anyone. And all I knew was I was on that bottom layer. Everybody was on top of me. And I was screaming and yelling, and I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die.
The trauma of that night affected My Linh for decades. She and her sister spent 2 years in a refugee camp before being granted asylum in Australia.
Tough. It was very tough. Why did Mum do that to me? Why did you send me away? It's just sadness, just a lot of sadness.
At 15, My Linh quit school to support herself. At 16, she was married. 19, divorced with 2 kids.
When my second daughter was 5 months old, I took the children and escaped and went into a women's refuge. It was a very sad point. I found whatever tablets I've got at home, just took it. Hearing them crying at my bed, "Mummy, I don't want you to die." And I was just like, oh my God, what have I done? And I guess that's a turning point in my life. That's a turning point in my life.
Mei-Lin went back to school, TAFE, and eventually uni. And one by one, she began reuniting the family. Incredibly, all 6 siblings now call Brisbane home. And her mum lives just around the corner.
That period during the war, what was it like to have to make those kinds of decisions?
Hard work. Rồi thấy người ta đi nước ngoài thì muốn cho con đi nước ngoài để cho chúng nó có cái tương lai. Chứ còn sống mà ở Sài Gòn thì làm ăn khó và sống cũng khó với chính quyền. Nhưng mà chủ bụng là đến với nhau, cùng đến cùng một chỗ.
The heartache that she had to go through at the time as well, it's not easy. And I thank her for having the courage to make that decision. You know, I would not be the person I am today if I was still living back home.
But there's someone still missing from these family gatherings. After more than a decade imprisoned, Mei-Lin's father claimed asylum in the US.
I was in the process of bringing him to Australia, sponsoring him to Australia, but unfortunately he did not make it. We were told that he was diagnosed with terminal illness and he was given a very short time to live. My sister and I went over quickly, straight up, and stayed with him until he passed away.
What was it like to see him again after 22 years?
It's bittersweet, isn't it? Exceptionally happy, but knowing that he's only got days left.
In all that's happened since, what stands out for me is that Mei-Lin's youngest son, Braden, is now the same age that she was when she first arrived in this country.
Me being at 14 is different to when she was 14. For her, it was like, it was every single day there was always a bad thing going on. And it was always a struggle for her. It takes a toll on me because it's like, whoa, like, my mum went through all this and she's still able to now take care of 3 children.
All this stuff has happened to you in your life. Do you ever feel angry that you were robbed of a childhood?
I don't think I've got time for it. I don't think I'd ever want to ask for anything different or changed in any way. This is me, this is home. I'm Australian, a boat person, and I'm actually proud of it.
In my life, the term boat people has always been so divisive. And in many ways it still is. But for a lot of the Vietnamese who came and made a home here, it's just a reminder of their strength, of their resilience, and of their gratitude to a country that took them in when they had nowhere else to go. And 40 years later, those same boat people have changed this country. How we eat, how we think, and what it is we consider to be Australian. And really, they're just getting started.